My name's Kent Mathias, and I serve as minister here, where I met Glo and Bill in 2002 and have felt a special bond with both of them ever since. They've been very gracious, wonderful people to me, as I know they have been to so many others, but I know my wife and I to look to many ways to them, especially for their marriage, such companionship and collaboration and adoration that was so visible all the time between the two of them. And thank goodness for that day of May 1st of 1928, when Albert and Margaret Truig gave birth to their first child, Gloria. Albert and Margaret were first-generation German immigrants who had settled in the outskirts of Pittsburgh not long after the family welcomed and loved Gloria's younger sister, Shirley. Gloria's father, Albert, owned and managed the Pittsburgh Machine Company. He was a tunnel engineer, among other things, and headed up significant projects in the region, of which the family was very proud. And the family enjoyed their community, which was predominantly comprised of German immigrants. The language was alive. It included Wiener Schnitzel and dancing at the Tortulia Club, which Bill would eventually get to visit when he entered the picture later. The culture there of hard work and having some fun from time to time did Gloria well, because life was not always easy. From a very young age, she was quite sickly. That's how she described herself, I believe. And for example, most of the time during junior high, she had to go to the nurse's office instead of gym class. And that's tough. However, those of us who knew her are not surprised. She did persevere. And she was in that trendsetter era, in my view, of women, as she went to the University of Pittsburgh, where she graduated in 1944. Very smart woman her whole life. And that was where she met the one and only love of her life, William Delamar. Just out of service to the Navy, William attended Pitt because he had family in the city. What he didn't know was he's going to meet the woman who would become his best friend forever and with whom he would make a family. Glo and Bill met, dated, and married on August 1st of 51 and had 5 wonderful children: Graylee, Kelsey, Keeley, Dawson, and Crowan. In one period of time, Gloria taught kindergarten for 4 years. She was highly dedicated to helping each child, and this included one daunting situation where a truly neglected child entered the class completely unable to speak. Glo gave mountains of care and took strategic initiative. She studied very hard to figure out how to touch this child that was so vulnerable. And she did make a difference. And they continued to find out in the course of the next years the child did turn a corner of healing and development. And Glo was a big part of it. And I think that story speaks a lot to her DNA, who she was. Bill had a robust career which had the family move quite a bit from Pittsburgh. They went to Frederick, Maryland, then back to Pittsburgh, then to Richmond, and then to Cheltenham, Pennsylvania. And this last sections are when the Unitarian Universalists got lucky, having been active members in Richmond. Bill and Glo brought their lovely family to this church. In what must have been a very patriotic ceremony, they joined this fabulous Philadelphia church in 1976. And here Gloria served as the church representative to the UU House Board of Directors. That was a neighborhood area organization that provided critical and quality care to elderly folks in a residential setting. And Gloria served as president of the board of this fine organization. She's a natural leader who served also as president of the Philadelphia Writers Conference and the National League of American Pen Women Writers. She was a writer. It was really essential to her to explore words and ideas and write, one of the tremendous bonds that she shared with her husband. Gloria wrote 13 books. 5 are published, and 8 are in the pipeline with the help of her man. In reflecting upon the book she wrote, which is an important book, a definitive study of Mother Goose, you have to look at it to understand the different angles on it. Glo wrote some words that, in my opinion, seem to reflect her approach to writing and actually, I'd say, life in general. She wrote, "Something happens in the soul of a compulsive researcher when a random tidbit of information nags like a burr in the brain." She said, "I worked with Mother Goose materials many times before and knew there were political implications connected with some of them, and some had roots in religion. In that work, I found my personal voice in the many items that made my heart race and new discoveries about old verse friends." This woman with so much heart and sharp brains, she was an independent thinker, never fell into groupthink. I admire, there's a lot of stories about it. Never fell into groupthink, followed new discoveries that made her heart race. She appreciated beauty and helped make the world a better place. I think we can all do well to emulate those ways of being. Her love lives on in all of us. We hold her near and dear in our hearts, filling us with blessings. This time we have the treat of hearing from the family. They'll come forward as a group now, Bill and children, and take turns sharing their remarks.
Thank you, Kent. That was fantastic. You really did a great job of describing my mom. Good afternoon, family and friends. I'm Kerwin Delamar. I'm the youngest offspring of Gloria and William Delamar. Thank you all for being here today to celebrate my mom, Gloria May Truitt Delamar. Today I'm going to talk about some of the things that made her so special. I honestly do not know how to describe her in words adequately. How can you condense a person's whole lifetime into a few paragraphs? Life is complex, and she lived a full, complex life full of achievement and adventure. I remember her as being a kind and loving person who was as beautiful on the inside as she was on the outside. The most important things to her in life were her family and friends. She was a wealth of knowledge on many subjects. She was exceptionally brilliant. I wish I had just a fraction of her brilliance. Well, maybe I have just a little fraction. She raised me from infancy to adulthood. My mother taught me how to be caring, affectionate, polite, forgiving, and empathetic towards others, especially those in need. She lived her life in the most positive way, and she saw the good in everything and encouraged others to do the same. She was loving and caring, thoughtful, hardworking, compassionate, brilliant, and so much more. She was extremely creative in her teaching and various forms of art and writing. My mother's core motivating force in life was love, unconditional love. And it was this unconditional love that has formed the essence of who I am. She loved everybody, regardless of their background, appearance, religion, or ethnicity, especially children, the handicapped, or people facing other challenges. As Kent described, she really made a difference in a lot of people's lives. She didn't ever argue. She would strongly disagree. She would never belittle a person or speak down to them. She would only show exasperation in her tone of voice that you didn't see her point of view. Always respectful and courteous. A loving wife, mother, grandmother, proud great-grandmother, and loving, faithful friend of many for years, all throughout her life. When she was a small child, her father's dog, Blitzen, a German Shepherd, bit her. And she had a lifelong fear of dogs. But later on, she allowed her children to enjoy the care of caring for a pet, the love and joy of caring for a pet, through our dogs, Celery and Frobisher. She didn't like cats, but she did allow me to keep my cat in the house because she knew I cared for him. And she was known as Mother Goose. She established Mother Goose Day, celebrating on May 1st every year to commemorate the rhymes of Mother Goose. She would get calls and letters from schools all over the country asking for information about Mother Goose. And she was interviewed on the radio several times. They had her reading Mother Goose rhymes, which were then spliced into a rap song. I think Snoop Dogg and Sir Mix-a-Lot, and she had a good sense of humor. We can play that for you later up in the reception if you'd like to hear it. She grew up before computers or social media existed, and she taught herself to use a typewriter. She used whiteout to correct the typos. She did her best to grasp the new technology as it came along, and she taught herself to use the computer. In recent years, she joined Facebook, and she enjoyed connecting with many friends there and sharing thoughts. Friends have told me they miss her musings on Facebook. When we were children, Mom would sew us clothing. And she sewed matching outfits for the girls. She sewed blankets for me and my brother, and really neat paisley material with enough material left that she made throw pillows and capes that we could pretend to be superheroes. And she planned special meals for each of us, especially on our birthdays, of all of our favorite foods. And for holidays, she gave thoughtful, practical gifts like clothing and books. I fondly recall my friends and I finger painting with her in the backyard or playing charades with close friends. Summer vacations in Nag's Head, playing auto bingo on the long rides, and she would always prepare prize bags and toys and snacks to keep us occupied on the rides so we didn't bother Dad. She started a tradition of singing happy birthday to whoever's birthday was closest as we crossed the state line. Usually it was my birthday. She effortlessly gave her attention whenever one of us spoke or asked questions. She was genuinely delighted to engage in dialogue and discuss topics, teach us, and learn from us. She had a love of angels, bells, German foods, and the beauty of nature, like pine cones, leaves, snowflakes, and spider webs. She did enjoy all the fine things in life, and she lived a wonderful life. She didn't lean on spiritual or religious rites, but rather on the friends she made everywhere. Although she's gone, life is still grand because of all of our family and friends. And I will always be grateful to both of my parents because of their hard work, support, and unconditional love. My mother lives on in my heart. Thank you all again.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Glad you're all here to help us celebrate my mom. I'm Dawson Delamar, fourth child of Mom and Dad. Thank you, Kent, for everything you're doing for us. Thank you all for helping us out. And my mom, she loved to laugh. And she had a great laugh. When something struck her as funny, nobody could say, "Ha!" quite the way she could. It was genuine and unique. Just like her, genuine and unique. So now I'm up here set with the task of saying a few words about my mom. And that's a tough assignment, to pick a few things out of so many. There's not much I can say about my mom that most of you don't already know. And she was smart, and she was funny, and she was beautiful. She was an open book. If ever there was a person that rang true down to their very core, it was my mom. She spoke her mind, and she did it with her own style of diplomacy. Gentle, but persuasive and compelling. Naturally, many of the things my mom did and how she did them, and the special kind of person she was, certainly had an impact on my life as a child and as an adult. She had an amazing ability to let people express themselves in their own way. She'd listen, and she'd let me use my own words with her. She understood the direction I speak. And she showed me that my imperfections were part of what made me unique. And it was okay to be flawed. Like as a child, I had an ear problem until it was corrected when I was 12. But because of it, going swimming with the family was difficult. At times it was prohibited by my doctor. Other times it was only to be done with special precautions, like plugging my ear with lamb's wool and Vaseline. And she took great care to make sure it was done the right way. But during it all, she never made me feel inferior or broken because of that or any of my problems. She made sure I knew that I wasn't loved any less, ever. She had an unlimited capacity in her heart to love and support and encourage. I never doubted that she was always in my corner from the beginning until the end. And now she's gone. And, well, I certainly wish that I'd told her more, that I love her. I mean, I know that she knew I love her, but I should have said it more. And maybe I should have paid more attention, even to the little things. You know, as we've been preparing to celebrate her life and sort through family memories and learn things, like looking at all the photos that she's in, and so many of them. She liked to have her hair hang draped on the front of her left shoulder. And I'd never noticed that before. Maybe I should have. My mom was beautiful. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Keely. I'm the middle one. Thank you all for being here with us today. We're grateful for your support and for the love that so many of you have poured out to us in so many different ways. As you know, my mom was a writer. The very first book I remember her working on as a child, when I was a child, not her, was a children's book called The Most Beautiful Word. We heard excerpts of it frequently around the house as she worked on it. She wrote, and she rewrote, and she rewrote because, of course, that's what writers do. It seemed fitting to read her words to you today. Now pretend that you're in kindergarten as you listen to this. The Most Beautiful Word by Gloria and William Delamere. You're in kindergarten, okay? A beautiful word. A beautiful word. What is the most beautiful word you have heard? A giraffe would stretch while nibbling leaves, then give a branch a peck. With his head held up high, he would say with a sigh, the most beautiful word is neck. The camel, if asked his opinion, would give his feet a thump. He would push his back out and then say without doubt, the most beautiful word is hump. A rabbit would listen carefully, then hop to get quite near. She would hold her head high and then say with a sigh, the most beautiful word is ear. An elephant would say trunk, a zebra would say stripes. All would speak of something depending on their types. An ocean beach would surely say, I need water and some land. A few shells are quite nice, but I need not think twice. The most beautiful word is sand. To cars and trucks and buses too, who honk their horns to pass, as they move to and fro, this is what makes them go. The most beautiful word is gas. The clocks and watches all would say, as tick-tock they would chime, with a tick and a tock to a watch and a clock, the most beautiful word is time. Pots and pans full and in a fine mood will surely answer, the most beautiful word is food. Dogs and pups of every size would give a hungry moan. Now, my dad liked to tease my mom, and as she talked about this book, he invariably interjected that his favorite word, to him the most beautiful word, was celery. And he would say it with a little lilt in his voice, celery, celery. So when we finally did get a dog, my mother immediately agreed that the dog's name should be celery, Dad's favorite word. They did share a healthy sense of humor. Dogs and pups of every size would give a hungry moan, because meat is good raw and we do like to gnaw. The most beautiful word is bone. Cats and kittens would say meow and close their eyes to dream, for the kitties would think of their favorite drink. The most beautiful word is cream. A squirrel would open his jaws and snap open, then quickly shut. With a swish of his tail, he would run down the trail. The most beautiful word is nut. A monkey would say banana, a horse would favor hay, and other words would be preferred in every different way. A fish with fins and gills would think to tell a son or daughter, since we live in a stream, to us fish it would seem the most beautiful word is water. If grass and flowers could talk at all, they would sing in happy refrain. Though the sun gives us light and the ground holds us tight, the most beautiful word is rain. The woods and forests of the world would answer, you can see, from the trunks in the ground to the leaves that abound. The most beautiful word is tree. Pigs would grunt with a sloppy thud. To them, the most beautiful word is mud. A chicken in the farmer's barn, clucking, she would beg. She would cluck from her nest. There's one word that is best. The most beautiful word is egg. A sheep would proudly answer when the shearing bags are full, I help make your clothes. So as anyone knows, the most beautiful word is wool. The bees would buzz about their hive. They would think the question funny. It is easy to see from the view of a bee, the most beautiful word is honey. A cow would say milk, and so would a goat. There are quite a few words and reasons to note. A turtle would just look around and say, as you know well, I can stick my head out and then look all about. The most beautiful word is shell. A butterfly would answer and flutter as it sings, I have colors of every hue, yellow and black and orange and blue. The most beautiful word is wings. Birds like robins and blue jays too do need some place to rest. Birds fly and they sleep. There's one word to keep. The most beautiful word is nest. Each creature or thing would say something from the world of which they've heard, having to do with what they like best in naming their favorite word. But to loving mothers or loving fathers and loving boys or girls, love is a feeling and love is a sound. Love is a word you want to hear all around. The very most beautiful word is love. The most beautiful word is love. My mother was very loved and will be very missed.
I'm Kelsey Delamar, Glow and Bill's second born. My older sister Graylee is very sorry she's not able to join us today. She would certainly be here if she could, but she's sending her love. She's actually lucky she wasn't named Celery, but my parents came to a different agreement about that. I'd like to thank each of you for coming here today to share tribute and help us honor my mother's memory. Your being here to bear witness with us is of no small value, and we appreciate you. Gloria Delamar gave life to me twice. First, when she gave birth to me, and again when she found me limp in my crib and breathed life back into my little blue body. This was years before general SIDS awareness or education for young mothers about how to protect their babies from it. As many of you can attest, it was part of her legacy many times over to simply step up and do what needed to be done. Lucky for me. My Mama Bear loved Chanel No. 5, women's figure skating, and the rich male harmonies of Celtic thunder. She loved music that made her cry and felt deep empathy for others, especially those in pain. You know, she was an avid reader and writer. She mentored many aspiring writers and loved sharing her craft. She nurtured creativity in many forms beyond writing, from photography to liquid metal art, to jewelry making and capturing spiders' webs on paper to immortalize nature's design. She was deeply sentimental, saving cards from friends and family, notes and artwork of her children, and many heartfelt letters from her husband, the love of her life. I once asked her the secret to a long and happy marriage, and she told me the magic word was compromise. And she must have been onto something, because she and my dad were married for 65 years and were true, loving partners in a way that many yearn for. Not long after her death, someone, a friend hoping to comfort, said to me, "She's still with you." And every fiber of my being cried, "No. She's gone, forever." The anguish unfathomable before this. But over the hours, days, and increasing weeks, I have felt her often, heard her words, remembered her arms around me delivering mother's hugs, seen, in part from things many of you have shared, the impact of her work and her loving, and I have realized she is indeed still here, not with me exactly, but in me, guiding me still, and filling me still with love to share. Her presence slips through my mind with amazing regularity. Before her death, I spoke with her almost daily, storing up tidbits of information to share with her and questions to ask of her. And I find I'm still having those conversations, just all in my head now, Things of hers I have surrounding me are constant and welcome reminders of her. I'm experiencing these things as a balm to my spirit and a treasure I'm grateful for. And here I must add, my ending that sentence in a preposition is not something that would ever get past my mama bear. My mother was a warrior. Life threw her a lot of curves and challenges, and she faced them head on, rising as a creative, loving, sharing human being and a mentor to many, including me. She was a guidepost and a huge positive influence. That has not changed. I trust I'll be forever able to hear her voice in my head and in my heart. That's where she lives on. And I'm sure many of you can hear her voice too, and so she lives on in you as well. Thus her legacy endures and her love endures. That ends my sentimentality for the moment, and now my Papa Bear is going to share a few thoughts about his precious Globie. Lucky you.
I want to tell you how Glo and I met. Many years ago, when she was still in college at the University of Pittsburgh, she had joined a club called the Pittsburgh Stardusters, which was a club for tall people. And I moved to Pittsburgh, and someone talked me into joining the Pittsburgh Tip Toppers, which was a rival tall club. And the two clubs had a joint meeting, and a friend who belonged to both thought that Glo and I would go well together, so she introduced us. And we were standing there talking a little bit, and then I mentioned I was just out of the Navy, and I thought the University of Pittsburgh marching band looked really silly with the white spats on their shoes, and they were jumping around, wiggling their horns. And I made a derogatory comment about the Pitt band. And she, being a loyal Pitt student, had a box in her hand, and she pushed it in my arms and said, "Hold this," and then she slapped me and took the box back. It wasn't a hard slap, and I detected a slight impish look in her eye, so the next day I called her and asked her for a date. And she said yes. And for a year and a half, we went together, and then we got married for 65 years. She had an amazing mind, creative, and just constantly doing things that were beyond